Hi guys, it's me Karen with CK Customs PA. We're getting ready to start our live class with fonts with Cricut for beginners. Our agenda today is to learn how to find fonts for free online, learn how to install fonts, learn how to know what you have, and learn basic ways to arrange your fonts in Design Space. All the links that I'll use throughout the video will be in the YouTube video description below when this is on YouTube. And also they are in the Facebook event description. So if you go to Cricut Help Desk, our group, we have events, and in there in the description are all the links we're going to use for class today. Let's go ahead. Let me switch the screen here and we'll get started. All right. So I'm now up in the corner. You can see most of my desktop background so that as I pull up screens, you'll be able to see them. Okay, so our first agenda item was learn how to find fonts for free online. And I'm a big fan of dafont.com. But I'm not just going to give you a website and drop it at that. I really want to show you how to effectively use dafonts.com. So one thing I use frequently is the search bar. So up on the upper right is a search bar, and you can put in some different terms of what you may be looking for. So maybe you're looking for cursive, hit enter, and you can start to see some of the fonts that are labeled as cursive. Now they also have, go back a screen, they also have topic areas. So they have fancy and foreign and techno and gothic and basic and all kinds of topics and subtopics under those. So I know the other day in one of the Facebook groups, somebody asked to help them find a font in Dafont. And I didn't know the name of it, but I got here and I said, you know what, it kind of looked a little kind of older, medieval kind of. So I had clicked this topic and I was able to actually find the font that way. So I do use the topics a lot. Also, you can enter the text that you're planning to write. So, for instance, we're looking at hello, and you can hit submit, and every single one of those same fonts is going to come up in the word you wrote. You can write multiple words as well. So I think it's the classic hello world. So I find this useful when you aren't sure what font you want and you want to see how they look, is to put the font right into the screen. Hello Sharon in Florida, welcome. Something else I like to do here is switch this 25 to 200, which is the maximum. This is just the results per page. That way, as I'm scrolling through, I can just keep going down the list. Let me let them load first. Keep going down the list for 200 results instead of 25. I just find that much more effective for myself than getting to the bottom of a list fairly quickly and having to hit next. So I do go to 200. So to recap that, I put in the actual word I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a name such as my own, 200 results of that, and hit submit. Now keep in mind right now I am still in that subcategory that I had clicked earlier. You can switch it to different categories or even use your search and still put in the name in the results. So I just switched my subcategory to see how those would look. All right, let's download a few of these fonts. So I'm just going to pick a couple here and click download. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Did I do 4 or 5? I think I missed one. Hope everybody's happy. It's a great Monday. Alright, so I've downloaded a handful of fonts. So let's talk about installing fonts. Minimize my browser and open my downloads folder. All right, so I had 246. I had 6 that I downloaded. Good morning, CJ. Nice butterfly. Okay, sorry, I keep like checking your comments. So I downloaded 6 fonts, and right now they are zipped. And Cricut Design Space cannot read inside of a zip file. So we are going to have to open those zip files and pull your font out of them. So I always put all my fonts in one central location. So let me make a folder on my desktop. We're going to call it Fonts. And I'm going to use that as my central location for all the fonts I've downloaded. So from this first bubblegum.zip, I'm going to drag the font into the fonts folder. I'm going to go back to my downloads. And I'm going to do it for all 6 of them. So your font file, when you open these, it may have other file types in it. What you're looking for is the .otf or .ttf. So if we see a TTF, we'll take a look at that. So that was a .otf. Both OTF and TTF are file types for fonts. The difference is the OTF is a newer file version. So sometimes in these downloads, you may get both the OTF and the TTF. And in that case, I just go with the OTF because it's the newer version. Let's see if any of these have both in them. This one has a TTF. It's like 2 of them. I don't know the difference, so I'm going to just take both. We'll look at the difference once we finish getting all of these out of here. I like the name of this font. It's Avocado. I like avocados. Okay, this has a TTF and an OTF. I'm just going to take the OTF. I don't need the duplicate. So I'm just going to take the newer file type. All right, so there is the last one that we've downloaded. Now I'm going to open that fonts folder. All right, so let's look at the 2 that were duplicate real quick. So I'm just going to double click to open it. And I'll open the second one. Okay, so I can see they are much different. I may keep both. One has hollowed out letters, one is not. I'm going to keep both. I like them. So let me close one and the other. All right, so to install a single font, you double click to open it, and you click install. It's installing that font. It's very quick. Close it. Do that again for the next one. This can become quite tedious. If you have numerous fonts, to open each one individually is not what I would recommend. What you can do, since all your fonts are in a central location, is select all of them, right-click, and select Install. Now, because I did already install the first 2, you guys watched me do that, I did get a pop-up that says it's already installed. Do you want to replace it? I'm not going to replace it because it's already there. But before I hit no, I'm going to select do this for all current items. So it doesn't pop up and ask me every time because, remember, I installed more than one. And over time, you may have hundreds or thousands of fonts in here. So you can just select your entire fonts folder, right-click, click Install. And when this pops up for the ones you already have, check that box and say no. We don't need to reinstall what we have. But this just takes a moment. Okay, it is done. It popped up on another screen. I'm sorry you didn't see it, but it was that quick that it just said installing. There was a little progress bar. It's already done. So all of those fonts are now installed. Now, let's see, checking my notes here. I just don't want to miss anything. All right, so for those to show up in Design Space, you do have to restart Design Space. So I did have it open. I'm going to close it. Reopen Cricut Design Space for it to see those new fonts. Just take a moment to open. It's on my other screen, and I'll drag it over. So here's our Design Space. Maybe size this a little bit for you. All right. So if I go onto a new project and add text, I can now go to my fonts dropdown and I can search for that avocado. If I could spell avocado. Avocado Creamy, there it is. And those fonts I've downloaded are available now in Cricut Design Space. Alright, so at this point, you may have hundreds or thousands of fonts on your computer. And we're going to move to that next agenda item, which is knowing what you have. Let's see. Now, you can come into Design Space and click the fonts drop down. Let me remove where I searched. And click System to see what is on your computer. That's one option. This list could be pretty lengthy. Sometimes the previews do not actually show what the font looks like. I have seen that before. So it's not my favorite way to know what I have. I've also done the method of printing out your fonts into a book. That was great when I had about 30 fonts, but now that I have thousands of fonts, not so great. So the book method is quickly not going to work. So there is a website, though, that I recommend. Again, the website will be in the description comments when this is on YouTube. It'll also be, or it already is, in the event page description on Facebook. So the site is Wordmark.it. And you can enter your word or phrase that you want to see the sample of and press enter. This is pulling the fonts installed on your computer. So when you find one you like, you already have them. You can see the name of the font, and then you'll know what to use in Cricut Design Space. Now, as you can see, I very quickly got to the bottom of this list. And I said I had thousands of fonts. So what you need to do is you have to install the browser extension to truly see all the fonts in your system. I intentionally, yes, good sound. Yep, we have sound. So Vicky, yes. If somebody could type to Vicky, yes, we have sound. So I intentionally uninstalled my extension so that I could show you guys this button here. I'm going to go ahead and install the Chrome browser extension. Add to Chrome. Add extension. Just takes a moment. Alright, it says it has been added to Chrome. So we're going to go ahead and close that tab. And I am going to refresh my Wordmark.it. So it can see that new extension. Retype my word and hit enter. Alright, as you can see, the results already look much different. As you scroll, they will continue to load. So it says loading. Just give it a second and a whole nother grouping will show up. So this is one of the tools I use to know what fonts I actually have on my machine and see them in the text that I enter. All right, so the next step here is, what if you are trying to match to a font? Something that you saw somewhere, or a customer or a friend wants you to try to match to something they saw, and you don't know the name of that font. There is a site called What the Font. It does reroute to myfonts.com/whatthefont, but you can put in whatthefont.com and it will reroute you there. So I just remember it as What the Font. And what you can do is upload a picture and it will try to match the font. So click here to upload an image. And I need to find an image. Let's see here. So I'm going to use one of my, I think, old banners. Yeah, it's an older banner. But let's see. So I did. In fact, I had this older banner. I needed to recreate it to add some additional things like the shirts and change what was up top. I needed to find the font name, and I didn't remember what it was. So on What the Font, I came in, and I uploaded that old banner. Now, it picks part of the font to try to search for. If that's not what I was looking for, you can move this around. You can resize it to find which font you want it to try to find. So let's go ahead and put it back on Customs. And hit your little blue arrow. So it's pulled that piece out. And it does its best to try to actually find those fonts. It looks like this one is pretty similar. Not quite. Like looking at the bottom of the T, it doesn't come up here, so I'll keep scrolling. This one comes up a little bit, but that C doesn't look quite right to me. I'm going to keep looking. I don't know how far down it is, but I do know that this did eventually find the font that was used. There's a show more results. It did eventually find the font, and I was able to get the name of it. So these are the names in blue. You can purchase them from here, or you can try to search for those font names, and you may find them elsewhere at different prices. I actually ended up finding my font for free using this method. So that is whatthefont.com. Lots to show there. Just check in. Okay, Vicky can hear now. Great. Vicky, glad to have you. After we're done, we're going to take the video down and we're going to put it up on YouTube, and then we'll put the link so you can go back and watch the parts that you couldn't hear. But we're glad to have you. All right, so let's move on to Design Space and actually using some of the fonts, manipulating some of the fonts in Design Space. All right, so we have this CK Customs PA, and I'm going to switch to what is very popular are all of those script fonts. Everybody loves their script fonts. The problem is when you bring them in Design Space, they're never connected. So we're going to work on that together. All right, so the C and the K, the P and the A, not too concerned about. Those are capital letters, but the center customs really would look better connected. So one way you can start to move those around is there is a toolbar at the top when you have a font selected. So it's a sub toolbar specifically for fonts. If I deselect, it goes away. But when I select on the font, you get that sub toolbar. And there is a letter spacing. You can click the down arrow to decrease the space. You can continue doing that as much or as little as you need to. So I can see here, I really like how this C comes into view now. but I don't like the U into the S. It's just not quite enough. But if I keep going, my concern is my C is going to cross over my U. So I'm going to stop decreasing my letter space. And instead, I'm going to now start to move them manually. Over here on the right, where you have your text, I'm going to ungroup, and each letter is going to become its own piece. What I do is, looking from the left, I looked for where I need to make adjustments from the left. So I do actually want to separate this C and the K. They're both capital letters, and I didn't want them to connect. So that being the first adjustment, I'm going to select everything from the right up to that K. I'm going to grab it, and I'm just going to drag it over a hair until I like where it's at. I'm not worried so much about my vertical alignment here. I know it shifted down. We're going to fix that later. So I'm going to deselect. Moving on. I liked the C into the U, but again, I mentioned the U to the S I wasn't a big fan of. So let me grab up to the S. See if I can get those to connect the way I like them. It's a little better. I'm going to move the T into the S next. So the same process here. The T to the O looks okay to me, but I can see it's a little jagged on the O to the M. So let's move that one. And then the S to the M could be fixed a little bit. Great, I like it. I did mention that I don't think they're perfectly aligned at the bottom, so I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to use my align, and I'm going to align them to the bottom so that it is flat on the bottom. See that? So the align, you could center align different text. It would look kind of silly in this case. You can top align. Again, doesn't look quite right for this font, but you can see there's different use cases for each different type of align. So we're going to go back to bottom align. All right, so they are aligned. I like the spacing. Let's see here. So they are still individual pieces. And if I send them to my mat as individual pieces, it's going to rearrange them. Let me cancel. Let me change the color. It's the mats that are black are hard to see. Let me flip this to yellow. And then click make it. Should be able to see it a little better. Alright, so definitely change the order here. Not what we want. So again, let me hit cancel. So you could attach them. Let me highlight them all and find the attach button at the bottom of my screen. I have attach at the bottom. And then if I click make it, that keeps it in the same order. No problem there. But let me hit cancel. Let me zoom in and show you something what happened when I did attach. So make this much larger. Let me move this up. Alright, so even larger. I really want you guys to see this. There are still cut lines between each letter. So it's really easy to see between this U and this S that there's a slice. And when I cut this on my Cricut, I don't want that slice there because that's going to make my letters potentially separate. So you have to weld your design to remove that. So make my window a little smaller so you guys can see more of the buttons at the bottom. So here is weld. The whole thing is selected. I'm going to select weld. And now there is no slice between the U and the S or any of those other letters that we put together. It removes those slices. Now I can see it's still a little jagged. I could undo and I could rearrange the letters. I'm not going to spend time during this class fixing all of that, but when you are finished and it's the way you like it, you will want to weld if you're going to use a script or a cursive type font. Now when you click Make It, those connecting pieces will truly connect. All right, so at this point, I have actually gone through the full agenda that we had. Let me switch our screen here a little bit. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you have any ideas for future class topics, please put them in the comments below, and we'd appreciate if you would like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks, have a great day.